There is a peculiar kind of silence that some of you know intimately. It's not the silence of an empty room or a forest at midnight. It is the silence on the outside, the calm expression you wear like a well-worn coat, the slow nod you give in conversations, the patient way you wait for others to finish their torrent of words. But behind that placid surface, behind your eyes, there is a hurricane, a relentless, deafening, beautiful, and terrifying storm of thought. A mind so loud, so ceaselessly active, that the external world often feels like a muffled, distant dream. And you have, for so many years, perhaps for your entire life, believed that this is a defect. You've looked at the effortless chatter of others, their seemingly simple and direct engagement with the world, and you've thought, there is something wrong with me. Why can't I just turn it off? You've been told you're too serious, that you overthink things, that you live too much in your head. And in the quiet moments of your loudest internal nights, you have agreed with them. You felt isolated by the sheer volume of your own consciousness. But what if I were to tell you that this inner clamor, this ceaseless symphony of analysis, reflection, and imagination is not the sound of a flaw, but the sound of a mind coming alive? What if this so-called overthinking is not a bug in your system, but the core feature of a consciousness that is beginning to perceive reality on a much deeper, much higher resolution frequency than the society around you is equipped to handle? What if your feeling of being broken is, in fact, the first growing pain of becoming whole? You see, the great misunderstanding is to assume that the goal is a quiet mind. A quiet mind is often just a mind that has agreed to believe the simple stories it is told. A loud mind, your mind, is one that is wrestling with the truth. It's a mind that has seen the threads behind the puppet show and can no longer simply enjoy the dance. The problem is not that your mind is too loud. The problem is that you're trying to live in a world that is profoundly, desperately, too quiet about the things that matter. Let us look for a moment at the world you are trying so hard to fit into. It is a grand performance, a magnificent stage play where everyone has been handed a script at birth. The script contains all the important lines: what to want, who to be, how to feel, what success looks like, what constitutes a good and proper life. The play is filled with a great deal of noise, the noise of ambition, the noise of consumerism, the noise of opinions, the noise of constant, frantic doing. People are shouting their lines, desperate to be heard, desperate to prove they are playing their part correctly. They mistake this external noise for life itself. They believe the volume of their activity is a measure of their existence. To them, silence is a void to be filled, and introspection is a strange, uncomfortable indulgence. Their minds are not necessarily quiet, rather, they are occupied. They are filled with the noise of the script. They are thinking about the next line, the next promotion, the next purchase, the next validation. It is a predictable, looping soundtrack. And then there is you. You stand on the same stage, you hold the same script. But somewhere along the way, you started to notice the flimsy construction of the sets. You began to hear the hollow echo of the delivered lines. You started seeing the anxious glances of the other actors, the subtle desperation behind their confident smiles. And your mind, in response to this, did not get quiet. It got louder. It began to ask questions. Is this real? Why are we saying these things? What is the point of this play? Who wrote this script? The noise in your head is the sound of your consciousness refusing to recite the lines. It is the sound of a reality checker running in the background, constantly flagging inconsistencies between the performance and the truth. Your exhaustion doesn't come from the loudness of your mind. It comes from the immense, soul-crushing effort of trying to pretend that you believe in the play. Every simple social interaction, every bit of small talk, every meeting where you must nod along to agreed-upon fictions is an act of profound energetic expenditure. You are translating, in real time, between the simplistic language of the script and the complex, nuanced, multi-layered language of your own perception. And it is utterly draining. The world tells you to be present, to get out of your head. But what they mean is, get out of your head and get into our script. And your soul, your very essence, knows that this is a form of death. That so-called quiet they are selling is not peace. It is compliance. So let us now embark on a reframing. Let us take the very things you have been taught to see as your greatest weaknesses and hold them up to the light, to see them for what they truly are, the hallmarks of a profound and beautiful awakening. This is the heart of the matter. This is where your liberation begins. Consider, first, the charge of overthinking. You are accused of analyzing everything to death, of being unable to let things go, of creating problems where there are none. You replay conversations in your head, not just once or twice, but perhaps 20 times, dissecting every word, every tone, every pause. You map out future scenarios with the detail of a military strategist, exploring 100 possible branching realities before making a simple decision. The world sees this as a kind of madness, a self-imposed anxiety. But let's look closer. What are you actually doing? You are not merely thinking, you are perceiving. When you listen to someone speak, you are not just hearing the words. You are hearing the music behind the words. You are sensing the subtle dissonances, the hesitations, the unsaid emotions, the old wounds that are shaping their sentences. Your mind is loud because it is processing an immense amount of data that others filter out. They see a two-dimensional cartoon. You see a multi-dimensional hologram. Your mind is like a cartographer. While others are content to walk the well-trodden path, you feel an irresistible urge to map the entire landscape. You want to understand the geology beneath the path, the ecosystems in the surrounding forests, the weather patterns that will affect the journey tomorrow. This process is noisy. It involves drafts, corrections, dead ends, and moments of overwhelming complexity. But it is not a pointless exercise. It is the pursuit of truth. Your so-called overthinking is a profound act of respect for the complexity of reality. You refuse to accept the cheap, easy, black and white answers that the world offers. The noise in your head is the sound of a mind that is building a more accurate, more compassionate, and more truthful map of the world. It is the sound of wisdom being forged. Now, let's talk about your social quietness, your supposed awkwardness in groups. You find yourself at a party or a gathering, and you are the one on the periphery. You watch, you listen. You might say a few words, but more often than not, you are a silent observer. Others may see you as shy, aloof, or even unfriendly. You have probably spent years berating yourself for this, forcing yourself to participate in the light, meaningless banter that seems to be the currency of social life. You've tried to be more outgoing, to contribute to the froth of conversation, only to feel like a fraud, your words tasting like ash in your mouth. But what if your silence is not a void, but a filter? What if it is not an absence of things to say, but a presence of discernment? The majority of social chatter is a kind of verbal grooming, a ritualistic exchange of noises to affirm that we are all part of the same tribe, all playing the same game. It is about everything and nothing. It is the weather report of the soul. It is designed to be frictionless, to avoid depth, to maintain the comfortable surface of the performance. Your mind, in its loudness and complexity, cannot operate at this frequency. It is like trying to discuss quantum physics in a room where everyone is only shouting their favorite color. The silence you exhibit is a sign of integrity. It is a refusal to add to the noise pollution. You are waiting for a real signal. You are listening for something authentic, something that resonates with the deep, complex world inside you. Your quietness is not emptiness. It is a space you hold open for truth. And on the rare occasions when you find someone who can meet you in that space, the conversation that ensues is not just chatter, it is communion. Your silence is not a wall, it is a selective doorway. It protects your inner world from the triviality that would drain it, and it waits patiently for the one or two souls who know the password. Let's turn to the constant inner monologue, the endless committee meetings and courtroom dramas playing out in your mind. You are your own prosecutor, defense attorney, judge, and jury. You debate with yourself, you give yourself speeches, you create entire dialogues with people you know or people you've only imagined. This can feel like a prison, a feedback loop of self-criticism and worry. The world would call it neurotic. But let's look at this activity not as a pathology, but as a rehearsal. A rehearsal for what? A rehearsal for authenticity. You see, the person who does not have these internal debates is often the person who simply accepts and repeats the scripts they've been given. They don't need to debate because their opinion is the pre-approved opinion. Their response is the socially conditioned response. You, on the other hand, are engaged in the breathtakingly difficult and courageous work of discovering what you actually think, what you actually feel. Your inner world is a laboratory. You are testing hypotheses. When you replay a conversation, you are not just punishing yourself, you are trying to understand the dynamics, to see where you were true and where you were false, to learn how to be more yourself the next time. When you imagine future scenarios, you are not just worrying, you are exploring the consequences of your actions, trying to align your choices with your deepest values. This internal activity is the messy, non-linear, often frustrating process of sculpting a self. Society wants a finished product, a smooth, polished stone. You are still in the glorious, noisy, dusty workshop, covered in marble chips, chisel in hand, slowly, painstakingly revealing the true form that lies within. It is the sacred work of an artist, and the noise is the sound of creation. And finally, let us consider your sensitivity. The reason your mind is so loud is because it is a finely tuned instrument. You pick up on everything. The subtle shift in a friend's tone of voice, the flicker of pain in a stranger's eyes, the unspoken tension in a room, the hypocrisy between what people say and what they do. These things are not just data points to you, they land with the force of physical blows. They reverberate through your system. This makes the world a very loud and often painful place to be. You have probably been told you are too sensitive, that you need to grow a thicker skin. This is the advice of the numb. They are asking you to break your own instrument so that their out-of-tune world doesn't sound so jarring. Your sensitivity is not a weakness. It is a form of perception. It is a superpower. It is the source of all genuine empathy, all true compassion, all profound art, and all deep wisdom. You see the cracks in the collective facade because your senses are sharp enough to perceive them. The average person walks through the world with earplugs in and blinders on, and they call this state normal. They have turned the volume of reality down to a manageable hum. You, however, are hearing the full symphony. You hear the soaring beauty, but you also hear the screeching, discordant notes of suffering, injustice, and falsehood that others have trained themselves to ignore. The loudness of your mind is a direct measure of your connection to the truth of the human condition. To ask you to be less sensitive is to ask a bird to be less aware of the wind. It is to ask the ocean to be less aware of the moon. It is to ask you to stop being alive. You arrive at a new understanding. The goal is not to silence your mind. The goal is to befriend it. The goal is to stop fighting the storm and learn to ride its winds. What happens when you cease to judge the loudness as a flaw? A strange and wonderful peace begins to descend. It is not the peace of silence, but the peace of harmony. You start to recognize the different instruments in your inner orchestra. This, here, is the violin of empathy, playing a sad, beautiful tune for the world. This is the thunder of the drums of justice, railing against hypocrisy. This is the complex, intricate piano of analysis, trying to find the underlying pattern. This is the flute of creative imagination, dreaming of new possibilities. It is no longer a cacophony. It becomes a symphony. Your symphony. The loneliness does not simply vanish. In a way, it deepens, but its quality changes entirely. It ceases to be the painful loneliness of the outcast and becomes the dignified solitude of the lighthouse keeper. You are stationed at the edge of the collective consciousness, and your job is not to join the noisy boats in the harbor, but to keep your light burning, to see things as they are. You find a strange comfort in your own company, because your inner world is so rich, so vast, so endlessly fascinating. You no longer need constant external validation because you are engaged in the far more profound project of internal validation, of aligning your life with the truth your loud mind is constantly revealing to you. You begin to act in the world not out of a desperate need to fit in, but from a calm, centered place of knowing. Your actions become more deliberate, your words more meaningful. You become a source of quiet strength and clarity for the few who are also beginning to awaken, who are drawn to your light. So the next time you feel that familiar frustration, that sense of being an alien in a world of loud, confident strangers, the next time the storm rages within and you are tempted to see it as a curse, I invite you to do something different. Don't fight it. Don't numb it. Don't try to silence it. Just listen. Get very still on the outside and turn your attention inward. Listen to the loudness with curiosity, with compassion, as you would listen to a dear friend who is trying to tell you something of immense importance. Ask it, what are you trying to show me? What truth about the world or about myself are you revealing right now? That noise, you see, is not your enemy. It is your wisest and most loyal guide. It is the sound of your own soul, refusing to fall asleep. It is the wild, beautiful, and undeniable music of your own awakening. And in a world that is doing everything it can to lull us into a comfortable slumber, a loud mind is not a problem to be solved. It is a sign of life. It is a thing to be treasured.